In the wild grass growing like madness, Misha fled through the thicket, running for who knows how long, exhausted and starving, and her unruly spirit finally exploded in a furious roar. Just as hunger was driving her nearly insane, a farmhouse appeared before her eyes, and a spark of hope instantly ignited in her heart. Taking advantage of the owner's absence, she quickly grabbed several pairs of thick socks to keep her feet warm. She then shook down a few apples and began eating them, but because her body lacked energy from meat and she ate too many apples, sudden discomfort struck, and she curled up in a pit on the ground, unable to endure the pain. In the end, she vomited everything she had eaten. Soon after, heavy rain began to fall, and she pushed through the forest under the downpour, soaked from head to toe. Fortunately, a house was hidden in the woods, and without hesitation, she went inside. She soon discovered it was an abandoned house, dark and eerie, with no food to be found and spider webs everywhere. With nothing to gain, she only found a small knife, tore off a tablecloth, took a pair of boots, and left the deserted house in disappointment. By then the rain had stopped, and she ripped the tablecloth apart to make herself a cloak. Suddenly, a whistle sounded as a train passed by, and she vaguely saw someone jump off, but she did not think much of it and kept moving. Unexpectedly, a group of German soldiers with hunting dogs were searching the forest, and she quickly hid behind a tree. Not daring to move, the soldiers headed in her direction, getting closer and closer. At that moment, the woman who had jumped from the train sensed she was about to be discovered and tried to flee, but it was already too late, as she was blocked on all sides. Seeing that the woman was young and attractive, they rushed toward her. At the same time, one of the hunting dogs caught Misha's scent and charged after her. This was a trick Misha had learned during her escape from a white-bearded old farmer. The old man kept two large dogs, one black and one white, named Ida and Maman Rita. Misha learned how to get along with them, and they became her emotional support. Now, in a desperate moment, she used that method, and it worked surprisingly well, turning the fierce hunting dog into a gentle companion. But before long, the soldier in charge of the dog arrived, and Misha panicked and ran. Yet in the blink of an eye, he caught up and seized her with a vicious expression. No one expected the hunting dog to suddenly leap at the soldier and clamp down on him fiercely. Seizing the chance, Misha escaped once again, running without stopping until she reached the riverbank. There happened to be a boat by the river, so she untied the rope and struggled to row away from shore. Although she was not skilled and the boat spun slightly, she quickly found her rhythm and rowed with all her strength toward the opposite bank. When the boat finally landed, she collapsed on the shore, resting for a moment. But hunger tormented her intensely. Seeing the colorful pebbles by the water, she thought they might be edible, picked them up, and put them into her mouth. But after trying several, she could only spit them out. Driven by hunger, she wanted to escape the wasteland as soon as possible. Yet with no sign of people around, she collapsed to the ground from sheer exhaustion. To survive, she crawled through the mud. Her will to live told her not to give up, and she dug into the soil with her hands, clawing little by little with her fingers, until she finally unearthed several earthworms, feeling not fear but delight, picking them up and eating them. But the indescribable taste was hard to endure, forcing her to eat, vomit, and then eat again. Relying on the small amount of strength gained from the earthworms, she struggled back to her feet, roaring that she was hungry while continuing forward. Living in this raw and brutal way, and holding on to the belief of moving east, she arrived in Germany in 1943. Although the weather grew colder, snow fell from the sky, and the land and forest were wrapped in a thick white blanket, she adapted to her surroundings like a little wild beast. After crawling over long snowy slopes, crossing ridges, and weaving through the woods, she spotted houses in the distance and slipped inside at the right moment. She saw potatoes boiling in a pot but could not eat them because they were too hot, and luckily found sausages in a cabinet, quickly stuffing them into her bag. But as soon as she stepped outside, the owner discovered her, and seeing her condition, assumed she was a gypsy, cursing her as a gypsy thief while holding onto her tightly. Desperate to break free, Misha had no choice but to injure him, forcing him to loosen his grip. The vicious old man then grabbed a large stone and hurled it at her, striking her squarely in the back, sending her crashing to the ground in agony. Nearly unable to breathe, enduring the pain amid his shouting, She struggled to her feet and staggered toward the forest. She waded across a small stream, reached the base of a cliff, and could go no farther, collapsing from pain and losing consciousness. Just at that moment, a white wild wolf discovered her, but strangely, the wolf did not seem to want to eat her, only sniffing all over her body. Ever since escaping from the old man's home, Misha refused to bathe, because she carried the scent of Maman Rita and Ida on her body. There was even the smell of that hunting dog. Perhaps it was these mixed scents that made the white wolf feel a sense of closeness. Misha was awakened by the white wolf, and in her loneliness, she did not feel any fear at all. Thinking the white wolf must be hungry, she threw it a sausage. After eating its fill, the white wolf stood on a rock and let out a long howl, and only then did Misha realize it was not a dog, but a wolf. But in her eyes, there was no real difference, and what truly frightened her were the German soldiers lurking everywhere. She gathered some branches and prepared to build a shelter for the night. Unexpectedly, the white wolf walked over, seeming to want to share the shelter, but then shyly ran away. The next day, under bright sunshine, Misha continued her journey, and after walking for a long time, she heard another wolf howl and realized the white wolf was following behind her. By a small stream, Misha washed the doll that had accompanied her along the way, while the white wolf drank water nearby and even splashed around in it. Seeing this, Misha laughed happily. She knew it wanted to play with her. Sure enough, on the snow under the sunlight, the white wolf noticed Misha watching and rolled over to show its belly, playing joyfully. Misha was infected by its happiness and began to seek joy in the same way. Soon her stomach growled again, and Misha managed to find some potatoes and sweet roots to offer the white wolf, but it showed no interest and ran off. Before long, it returned with a rabbit in its mouth, dropping it in front of Misha and offering her the rabbit. Misha was deeply grateful to the white wolf, cut the meat with her knife, and began to eat. But no matter how close they had become, Misha still had to continue her journey and had no choice but to say goodbye to the white wolf. Unexpectedly, her foot slipped, and she rolled down a hillside, fainting beneath a tree. Fortunately, the white wolf had been following her and managed to wake her up. That night, she curled up beside the white wolf and survived the freezing darkness. The next day, she discovered that a black wolf had appeared, and it turned out to be part of the same family as the white wolf. The two wolves worked together and hunted a wild boar, but the black wolf was the leader, and only after it had eaten its fill could the white wolf and Misha eat the fresh pork. However, that day, both the white wolf and the black wolf suddenly disappeared, and Misha assumed they had left. So she set off once again. On the way, she encountered a group of orphans much like herself, hiding in the forest and struggling to survive. One day, they suddenly noticed food left nearby, clearly meant to help them, but vigilant Misha believed this meant the area was no longer safe and urged them to move elsewhere quickly. They refused to listen, so she had no choice but to run off alone. Sure enough, she had not gone far before she saw those children being captured. Though relieved to have escaped, she knew she was still not safe and could only continue avoiding the German soldiers roaming everywhere. In her panic, she hid inside a cave. Inside the cave, she unexpectedly encountered a group of wolf cubs, and like seeing old friends, she embraced them. This was a rare moment of joy amid hardship. Just as she was about to leave, she discovered the white wolf had returned to the cave entrance. It turned out that the white wolf and the black wolf had gone to give birth to cubs. These little wolves were its children. In addition, there was now a brown wolf in the pack. Misha followed them as they avoided the German soldiers and survived by hunting in the forest. But food in the forest was scarce. As a result, the hungry wolf pack set its sights on a nearby farm. They worked together to hunt sheep, while Misha helped carry the meat back. However, the hierarchy among the wolves was strict, and only after the black wolf had eaten enough could the others begin to eat. The brown wolf, starving, tried to sneak a bite early and was driven away by the black wolf. Misha felt this was unfair, because she and the brown wolf had carried the meat together, but after the black wolf finished eating, the white wolf carried over a thick, fatty piece of mutton and placed it in front of Misha. Overwhelmed with gratitude, Misha devoured it eagerly. After eating her fill, she happily played with the wolf cubs. However, this happiness vanished in an instant, as the wolf pack was discovered by the farmer, and the brown wolf, the white wolf, and the black wolf were all killed. The farmer prepared to skin them. Misha secretly followed along and slipped into the farm, her heart filled with unbearable grief. But there was nothing she could do, so she could only hide on the farm and wait for an opportunity. Finally, the opportunity came. While the farmer was focused on drinking, she suddenly knocked him unconscious from behind and threw his weapon into the well. Only then did she cry as she dragged the white wolf back into the forest. She gathered dry leaves and covered the white wolf. And losing the white wolf felt like losing her parents all over again. She lay on the white wolf and sobbed, asking why again and again, but the white wolf could no longer stay by her side. After that, in a daze, she forced herself to keep going and continued searching for her parents. Earlier, her parents had hidden her in the attic at home and tried every possible way to let her attend school, but they told her to remember one rule, that if one day they did not come to pick her up after school, and instead a stranger came and spoke the code of a little rose, she must follow that person without hesitation. Sadly, that day came very quickly. Misha followed the stranger responsible for relocating her and arrived in the countryside, where the stranger used her parents' money to place her with a local family. Unexpectedly, the family seemed kind on the surface but treated her like a servant, often sending her to the farm to collect supplies. Over time, Misha became good friends with the white-bearded old farmer. She was inseparable from Ida and Maman Rita. One day, Misha asked the old man how she could find her parents. He taught her how to read maps, how to use a compass, and gave one to her. He said that according to rumors, they might have gone east, forced to work in factories or coal mines, where no work meant no food. Misha remembered these words, planting the seed of searching for her parents deep in her heart. But she never expected the day to arrive so soon. As the situation grew more dangerous, the people who took her and actually considered selling her to the Germans. Fortunately, the cautious Misha overheard their conversation and fled to the white-bearded old man's home. Because of this, the old man's family was taken away for questioning, but they insisted they had never seen Misha. Having escaped capture, Misha decided to head east to search for her parents, and her journey of escape truly began. When Misha left the wolf pack, she entrusted the wolf cubs to other wolves. Wolves may be fierce, but they also have a gentle side. They care for elderly wolves in the pack and raise the cubs of other packs, even babies of different kinds. After that, Misha arrived in Ukraine. The war had turned the land into ruins and scorched earth. For several days in a row, she found nothing to eat. Her injured foot became infected, and she finally collapsed, unconscious among the trash. Fortunately, a Soviet soldier found her and took her back with him. There, she felt warmth she had not known for a long time. She also watched a movie, which turned out to be a documentary about the war. From it, she learned that her hometown, Brussels, had already been liberated, filling her with excitement. She longed to return home, believing her parents might be waiting there, but the fighting here was still intense, and the soldiers received orders to evacuate immediately. The soldier wanted to take her with him, but she insisted on returning to Brussels. He respected her choice and gave her a military cap, telling her that with it on, no one would dare bully her. She then set out once again. When she reached a train station, someone under the train waved at her, so she rode beneath the train until she could no longer hold on and fell onto the tracks. She was dazed from the fall, but kept murmuring the words father and mother, driven by this belief. In March of 1945, she finally walked back to Brussels, but by then, her skin had begun to ulcerate. When she returned home, she discovered that her house had been occupied by others, who sent her to a refugee shelter, facing walls covered with photos of refugees. Yet finding no trace of her parents, she was heartbroken and deeply depressed. She still refused to bathe, because she carried the scent of Ida and Maman Rita on her body. In the end, the staff warned her that if she did not bathe and disinfect, she could not stay there and would not be allowed to wait for her parents, and only then did she agree to wash. However, years of wandering and eating raw meat had left her body full of parasites, causing her condition to worsen until she was barely alive. Based on her situation, the shelter contacted the white-bearded old man. He brought Ida and Maman Rita to her, reigniting her will to live. He encouraged her, saying that she had walked such a long road and overcome everything, and that she must get better. He told her to come home with him, that grandma would bake her favorite little bread, and they would wait together for her parents to return. A smile bloomed once more on Misha's face, and she reached out her small hand to make a promise with the old man, looking toward the future. At this point, the story comes to an abrupt end, leaving the ending to the audience. Perhaps she survived, and perhaps her parents came back. No matter the outcome, such a stubborn life standing before the world is the strongest response to a ruthless war. I am a film enthusiast, and this story comes from the anti-war film Living with Wolves. Thank you for watching. Follow me for more good stories, and I will see you next time.